WVUA-FM, Tuscaloosa.
Welcome, Tuscaloosa, to WVUA 90.7 FM, The Capstone. We are back again with Scooted Section MLB on this Wednesday night. I am Will Miller, joined tonight, as always, by Torre
and Carson Keel.
And we are breathing right down the neck of postseason baseball. We've had several teams clinch their respective divisions. The wild card races are winding down, yet they're still very intense. We've got a number of key series across the league. So without any further ado, let's get to one that's going to be at the front of the minds of many of our listeners, that being the series between the Atlanta Braves and the New York Mets, which is going to decide the champion of the National League East.
I mean, look, it's like we said last week, and we've been saying the week before, this is the most important series in all of baseball for this regular season. I mean, it's going to decide the division. It's probably going to mess with seeding. It's going to mess with, who's going to be higher, who's going to be lower, and it's probably going to just overall mess with everything playoff wise. So it's going to be a really interesting series. Again, we're kind of, and I'm just going to kind of quickly talk about this. Hurricane Ian has kind of affected this series and kind of the playoff location. Not playoff location, but where this series could be played, because it looks like the projections at first is going to basically come into Florida. It'll land right on top of Atlanta, dumping rain, and Coors Field does not have a roof. Then it was going to kind of edge over Atlanta. Then it was going to the left hook over Atlanta. And right now, it's looking like this hurricane is basically going to go right into South Carolina. So it's still good for the Braves, where it's not going to go directly over Atlanta. But we're still, MLB is still thinking about, do you want to risk it, because this is such a high-profile series where you're too close. You cannot make up any of these games.
Yeah, I am not a meteorologist. That is not what I'm in this business for. Obviously, all our best goes out to those in the path of this storm, first and foremost. And next off, there obviously have been conversations of maybe bumping the series up to tomorrow, which is Thursday night. Don't know how far that's gone. Yeah, how far it's advanced. Didn't think that was going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen.
Right, so I think you mentioned on that. The Mets offered to bump up their game earlier today, start the series tomorrow. Braves have cut that off because the Braves have not had an off day since the 3rd of this month. So everyone's wanting that off day, no matter what.
So between Kevin Nico and the third MLB is not considering starting the series relocating games to an official site also is not the series consideration.
Okay, so it's been ever since Monday. It's been pretty much off.
Okay, so yeah, obviously, let's just assume now that the series is going to be going on in Coors Park as is originally scheduled. Let's get into the games. We've got Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 3-game series. Gotta have it. Let's talk about each of these games in detail and preview how we think it's going to go. Got Friday's game pulled up, guys?
I do not have that yet. I've been looking to know where the standings are one more time. But
I got it. It's Bassett versus Green on the mound.
Okay, that's Braves.
Yeah, I think
Well, let's remember Chris Bassett, for what it's worth, has had all-star caliber seasons. He at his best, he's one of the best pitchers that you could have at this situation that are still in serious contention right now. Max Fried has not shown up against the Mets this season. I was at the game when he went opposite Scherzer and just didn't look sharp. So
I like that, but I also see Fried as a very tough guy, and I think Fried on a big stage like that, I think he can
Well, Ronald Acuna Jr., his bat's been heating up, and with Ozzie Albies gone again, you really need that to stay consistent. I mean, do we think he's going to continue that into this series?
I have to assume so. Yeah, I mean, look, once you're hot, you're hot. I mean, of course, the Mets do have good pitching. So looking at Saturday's game, actually, the Mets have not named anyone. Kyle Wright, though, is expected to start Saturday. Okay, so that might be
Saturday is Jacob deGrom versus Kyle Wright, and that should be a great duel. Jacob deGrom, even though he had a spotty game over in Oakland, has really looked the part of what he is, which is an absolute machine on the mound. You got Kyle Wright, who's a 20-game winner and has really just burst onto the scene this season. I mean, you're talking about a guy that really didn't seem to find it. And I think that where the turn happened was the World Series Game 4 when he had to come in and in a just disaster of a pitching situation. In my opinion, one of the worst jobs Brian Snitker has done managing this Braves team. He pitched several strong innings, only gave up a run of his own. One run crossed that was Lee's, but he gave up a home run to Altuve, pitched like 4 innings. I think that's where his confidence turned, and he was able mentally to get over that hump to where he is now. This should be, I think it has the makings to be one of the top pitchers duels this season, even though it's so late in the year. And it kind of feels like a toss-up. I mean, at their best, it depends. I would kind of lean Mets, but it's the Braves' home park. If they have an offensive explosion, obviously they have to win the game. They have had those games where they've kind of opened a can on the Mets in Truist Park, so and it's not likely they do it off DeGrom. But if Oakland DeGrom shows up, they will. So who can beat sure?
And fast forward Sunday night, you got Scherzer versus Maton.
I lean Mets on that one, 100%.
I mean, Morton's he's been on and off this season, definitely hot and cold. But I mean that again, Scherzer's also had some bad games, so that's a coin flip. And Sunday night in Truist Park, that's gonna be hot.
But also look at the fact that Evan Diaz has been struggling for the Mets as of recently, so their best guy in the bullpen, they're different people in here, so the Braves can come in late. They can keep the streak.
I think more so than anybody, Scherzer's likely to go long for the Mets.
Yeah.
I think out of the 3 that you have on the bump, he is most likely to go 7 or 8 innings.
Still coming back.
Yeah, exactly. And hasn't looked great recently. And that's relative, he's one of the best pitchers of his generation.
Well, I mean, I think we can say everyone, but the Mets have been a struggling team recently. Let me rephrase that. I would not say struggling. They have been a very cold team. It feels like everything they had kind of in August is just basically falling flat. And that's a really weird thing for the Mets because maybe, again, this is maybe my Braves fan bias, but but maybe this is also me just kind of from the baseball perspective. I'm just seeing another pattern where the Mets they're on the high and then they just come crashing down. And I'm starting to wonder if we're seeing that once again.
Well, let's assume both teams lose their game before this series. Their games. I know we'll have a couple games after because the season's kind of going a little bit into the first week of October this year for lockout reasons. But if somebody gets a sweep in this series, it's going to be a 100-win team.
Yeah.
And the one that doesn't obviously want to. Braves and Mets both have a chance to win 100 games. It's a huge milestone. That's the hallmark of the best teams in baseball most years. It's a triple-digit number of wins, and I think it's a real statement in addition to winning the division that you're able to do that. You can really claim to be at the very top of that pyramid, put yourself in position to be favorites for the World Series.
Yeah, I mean, look, again, we've seen 100-win teams also in recent time fall flat on their face. So regular season-wise, true, yeah. But again, 100-win teams can lose in the NLDS. So I won't put as much stock into that. I kind of disagree with you on that part.
Well, I think it's just something that can help you as a team. You can look back at because it's been a tough year. Let's look, the lockout. If you're the Braves, you've had, tough free agency period, obviously, without going into all those painful details. You had Ozzie injured for a huge stretch out of the year. You were dead to rights on June 1st. It was looking like you're going to have a World Series hangover. If you can go from all that to getting to 100 wins, I mean, I think that's a big statement to the baseball world from the Atlanta standpoint that they're here to stay. They're still about it. They really haven't lost a lot of steam, even though people may want to write them off. Even as successful as they've been, nobody's going to want them to repeat.
Again, I'll disagree with you. I think this Braves baseball team wants to go deep into the playoffs once again. They are a team that thrives being an underdog team. Atlanta has been a city, really, in sports-wise, has been thriving as an underdog team always. Whenever they're the top dog, usually it doesn't go their way in the playoffs. So I think that Atlanta likes the idea. Maybe again they don't get 100 wins, but they're still in the playoffs and they can go deep if they need.
And they could still win the division without it.
Oh yeah, I mean 100%.
and they're losing right now to the Nationals as of 4 minutes ago. We'll get to the live score update before the break in about 10 minutes. And so,
well, hey, it's not like the Mets are doing any better. They're tied right now with the Marlins.
What's the score?
0-0.
It's like top of the first.
Top of the fourth.
Okay. Did you guys see the 3 balks?
I did.
I
saw that.
Okay, yeah,
Did you
that
think, I
was
think he did it?
That was I had some.
I think 2 of them looked like bots. The third was a little bit of an exaggeration. I think the first 2 looked like bots. I don't know what was going on there, but I had no.
Score update. It is actually 2-0 Miami right now.
What happened?
I'm trying to get that actually up right now. I was just checking the score of that. Let me grab that right now.
Yeah, that's crazy. You're not going to see a guy balk 3
home run.
Really. Who hit it?
Brian De La Cruz.
He's been pretty good.
Sneaky power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His bat's kind of been what they thought Isan Diaz was going to be for a minute. But off that tangent, let's just do overarching predictions. We previewed the pitching matchups. We talked about the logistics in the game. Who is going to win this
I got
series?
the Braves taking 2 out of 3.
Braves.
Braves 2 out of 3. And
Braves,
they
yeah.
will win the division. And the Mets are, it's just the Law Mets moment is coming. I can just feel it. I believe if these games are really close, which I think a couple of them are going to be, that some sort of just ridiculous thing is going to happen, and the Mets are going to be on the wrong side of it.
How is the NL the playoff matchup looking? I kind of want to see
The Brewers are like a
off
game
the
and a
playoffs.
half back of the Phillies for the wild card position
Yeah.
right now, and the Phillies have lost 7 of their last 10 games, and we know the Phillies are probably the worst team in all of baseball in August and September, bar none. I think they're the worst, and it really just goes to show you. I really think they're ready for the season. Really, I just do. They had injuries for stretches of time, even though they're largely back from that. Their young talent has showed out, but they had, they dumped their manager Joe Girardi, and they're, I think Rob Thompson is the interim manager's name. But I just feel like they kind of tabbed this as a lost season after Joe Girardi was let go. I mean, they've seen a lot of great, outbursts from like Matt Dearling, Bryson Stott, a great young talent on this team. And they picked up Syndergaard. So it just feels to me like if they don't make the playoffs, which could happen, or they could make the playoffs, but say they don't, I feel like some people will believe that it could have been worse.
Oh yeah, like the Phillies, again, if they do make the playoffs, they end a decade-long drought. I mean, this would be considered a big win in most Phillies franchise because again, 2017 they were supposed to be the hot team. 2018 supposed to be the hot team.
2018 was the year that they led the NL East at like the 1st of August and won like between August and September, won like a combined 12 games.
Yeah, that was the famous kind of like Gray was kind of made a statement. 2019 was supposed to be another amazing team. They were supposed to be the Brave Killers. That didn't happen. Of course, 2020, that's when kind of things kind of went into sideways mode. And then 2021, of course. So.
Well, they weren't a very good, strong team last year, 2020.
Oh, yeah, that's what I just said, Kelly.
Well, it didn't feel to me like they gelled a lot. I think they're doing better at that now, if nothing else. I mean, they were never going to win the division this season. I don't think they will next year.
There were some Phillies fans who would tell you different. But
well, I don't know. I know a couple of Philly sports fans, and I mean, they seem like reasonable people. But I know that some Philadelphia sports fans can tend to get a little bit wild and crazy when it comes to, talking about the teams, talking about Philly and all that. So I don't really know what's what, honestly. But we'll address that at Done Not Done. We can talk about that at the end of the show and what we think is going to happen. I don't think the Brewers are a particularly good team either. They were supposed to win. So every year the Brewers are supposed to win the season. And it's pretty hilarious to me because they waste Christian Yelich. And,
okay, I want to get into that when we get to the next show because I feel like the Brewers were supposed to do that this year. It's like it just didn't happen.
They were. Well, the Cardinals are on an incredible fairy tale run that I think you could have scripted even at the beginning of this year. And I think it's fantastic what they're doing. But,
milestone.
And if the Braves.
With the Wainwright, Molina, and Pujol from them, it is very
But, not all fairy tales necessarily have a fairy tale ending if the Braves are going to repeat and they got to get through.
Yeah.
St. Louis has got to drop off at some point. But before we get to this first break, we can do a quick rundown of division clinches. Which teams have clinched their division?
New York Yankees.
Last night, the Yankees.
Yes, and another team, the Cleveland Guardians, have clinched their division also. I said last week I thought there was possibly Chicago could make that up. Nope, did not happen. As you guys said, I was a little optimistic on that. But so Cleveland, a team no one really thought was going to do anything this year. They even in a very weak AL Central, they made a statement.
And we talked about the Dodgers claiming the West. It's been Houston claiming the AL West. Now the NL Central has been claimed once again by the St. Louis Cardinals. They now
The NL Central? I mean, I thought it's East or something.
the NL Central has been claimed by the Cardinals, and that's great for them. They were able to win the division in 2019. They won again here in 2022. We talked about their run, and they now have a guaranteed playoff spot. They're not with the Brewers right now. I know we talked about a couple of shows ago, or last show, that the gap really wasn't as large as some people might lead you to believe. It was only like 2 games and a half or 2 games or something like that. We were talking about done, not done. But the Brewers, when it comes to clinching division, are well and truly done. So we have now pretty much 5 divisions on lock. The only division we're still watching out for is the NL East, and that's going to be a big series. And last couple of minutes before break, Luke's going to connect with some live scores.
But before I get score, though, I just wanted to say I saw something funny with the Yankees clinching. So on Monday when the Yankees got walked off by Vlad at home, he was saying, "This is my house. This is my house," and then he clinched on their turf. And Michael Kay, the Yankees broadcaster, said he threw a little shade at Vlad. He was gave him a shout out for allowing the Yankees to celebrate on his in his house on his home turf. With a clip that I saw, was pretty funny. And those scores. We got the Rays and Guardians tied in top of 7th at 1. The Yankees on top of Blue Jays 3-0 in the top of 4th. Royals are trailing the Tigers 2-1 in the bottom of 5th. Braves down to the Nationals 2-1 in the middle. That's up to the last couple of bottom of 4th. Red Sox on top of the Orioles, 2-0 in the top of 4th. Marlins beating the Mets 2-0 in the bottom of 4th. White Sox on top of the Twins 2-0 in the middle of the 2nd, and the Cardinals Brewers fight
Well, lots to watch out for tonight. We're going to take our first break. Don't go away. There's still a lot more to talk about. And we had an all-time historical milestone in the last week that we're going to come out of this next break and talk about. This is Student Section MLB. Keep it here on 90.7 FM, The Captain.
WVUA-FM, Tuscaloosa.
Welcome back to Student Section MLB here on 90.7 FM, The Capstone. And as promised, that historical milestone we were going to come out of this break with, it's a big one. Last week, Albert Pujols did it. He hit home run number 700. He's only the 4th player in the history of baseball to join that club. It's his final season. He's back with St. Louis. I didn't think it was going to happen. A lot of people didn't think it was going to happen. He hit 699 and 700 in the same game at Dodgers Stadium last Friday night. And it was truly a remarkable milestone, which is why the Dodgers fan needs to get the ball.
Just kind of crazy. I mean, again, the 2 home runs in the same game. I mean, I think everyone thought it was going to be 699, maybe a couple games, 700, or maybe the next day.
I was going to try to go this Saturday, actually, and try to catch it. I had the seats picked out and everything.
Oh, you were going to fly out of 3 to 5.
Drive.
We were going to drive to LA.
No, St. Louis.
Oh, St. Louis.
This weekend. Not LA
Okay.
last weekend.
Okay, yeah.
They're playing the Pirates on Saturday.
Yeah.
But I'm going to the playoff game. I'm going home the weekend of October 15th and 17th.
Please send your support as we do our best to make tolerable grades. We appreciate it.
Yes.
Albert Pujols has joined the list with Hank Aaron, Babe Ruth, and Barry Bonds. These are 4 of the greatest baseball players that ever lived.
Great.
Thank you, Carson, for implying that Barry Bonds didn't really hit it because of steroids.
Yes.
But regardless, I mean, let's touch on this for a minute here. Albert Pujols back in St. Louis, and he needed to get, 21 home runs this season. I don't think anybody would have forecasted that, but Dodgers must have put something in his drink or something last year. Like when they have the little bottles in the clubhouse, bottles of water they drink. Like they must have put something in there because he was revitalized when he joined the Dodgers, and he hit like 17 or 18 home runs last season. And he's hit 21 this season. He's hitting like 280. He's a 45-year-old man at least. Who could have forecasted this? He could pass, if he played another year, he could pass Babe Ruth on the RBIs list.
He could also easily pass.
If I'm close right now, if I'm close, I'm probably seriously considering an offer. But if it probably has to be either the Cardinals or it has to be like a win another ring.
I think he'd go back and play for the Dodgers.
I don't see him coming back, especially after this. It's like the story with him. He gets to 7.
If the money's right, I think he takes it.
I don't think.
Well, now that Tony La Russa is not managing anymore, the White Sox are off the table. They were in on free agent all times in the last couple of years.
How was he holding
It'd probably be the Cardinals, Dodgers, maybe the Braves, Mets.
That's just your Braves fan.
No, I know the Braves. The Braves are always like in like the chase. I mean, you can't rule them out. So.
Next time you see him,
I seriously think it's. I think a team's going to offer him a bunch of money.
He might get offered. I don't think he'll play.
Hanging the cleats up.
And who's to say he shouldn't? He came back for 700. He got it. He was able to do it in a Cardinal uniform. There's no reason. Yeah.
Here's the problem. Here's what's better than a storybook ending for most people: money. So.
But he has both.
He's been in the league for like 40 years. He's got enough money.
He's been playing baseball longer than we've been alive.
More money. He would want much more. He would get money.
What are you going to pay Albert Pujols, Carson? You know what? We're putting Carson in the GM's chair right now for fun reasons. You are the general manager of a baseball team, irregardless which one it is. What are you going to offer Albert Pujols, who's like 45 years old, who's already played
Given the circumstances
for what he's wanted to? He's already come back to the Cardinals. He's already written the story.
How much money?
Yeah.
All right. If the owner told me, all right, you got to sign Albert Pujols. Here's you have unlimited funds. I'd offer $1.5 million for 1 year, and say, hey, here's an option. You want to come back for a lower amount, but
$1.5 million.
He's making $2.5 million right now.
You're talking he's coming back for money.
Let me explain. But he would also get pretty much all the revenue from his merchandise. He would get certain benefits also, such
Retirement tour.
Maybe that, maybe access to a team plane for the rest of his life.
Why doesn't he have that anyway?
Well, I mean, hey, if the team's paying for the plane, who cares? I mean, I think a team could make enough offers. Money would not be the exact same, but it would have the benefits that kind of make that offer work.
I'm not denying that there will be offers on the table, and I'm not denying that there will be good offers, but I just don't see something.
I don't know.
Let the record show that I don't think he should.
I don't either. I think it's time. It is time. He started his retirement tour before this year.
I am not saying like he should not retire. He should not retire. I think he should. However, I think a team's going to make an offer that fits.
What? But I mean, you got to think he's not going to be moved by a $2 million offer. This time, he just wanted to go back and play for St. Louis, which of course everybody and their mother wanted to go back and play for St. Louis. So it kind of worked out that way. I don't know. I don't see it happening. I don't even think it's worth going down the rabbit hole. I wanted to hear your thoughts, money-wise. I would probably offer him on par what he's making now, and if I absolutely had to offer him, I would offer him on par with what he's making now and just see what happens. But apart from that, I don't know if he would be a top priority. For me as the general manager, I'm not going to have a top priority of signing him. And it's no disrespect to him as a player. It's just the situation right now and the
It is
timing.
his
Yeah.
time.
So shifting focus to the American League, Aaron Judge is still at 60. He's one off from tying Roger Maris's record single-season home runs in the AL, 2 away from breaking it. He's been deadlocked at 60 for several days. His teams have started walking him even more than they already have. And the fact of the matter is this: there's basically a week left in the regular season.
7 games.
Does he hit 2 home runs in 7 games?
He's done it. I mean, he's hit 2 home runs in 1 game 11 times this year, or some crazy number like that. I think it's 11 games. He has 2 home runs. He's gonna get it. He's not getting it right now. These games are now meaningful. Are not meaningful anymore. The Yankees close the division. They're going to be playing the Orioles, who are actually they're not. That's not true. So, I mean, the Rangers, for example, they have a 4-game series against the Rangers.
Those ticket prices are crazy. I was looking at those ticket prices.
They have a 4-game series against the Rangers to end the season. Rangers are out. Yankees clinched. Judge will be playing to break the record. It's meaningless games. They're not going to pitch around him every at bat like you see what's going on right now with the Blue Jays. I see him getting it, and it's going to be in that series. That's where he's going to break it. I think he's going to tie it at home against the Orioles. He's going to hit at least 1 in that series, and if he doesn't break it by then, he's breaking it in Texas. That's my prediction.
I want to be optimistic with the way teams are kind of walking him right now. I think he's going to tie the record, but I don't think he's getting 62. That's just my take, but the way teams are dealing with him right now, I'm pessimistic.
We know Luke's thoughts. Carson, do you want to see him hit it?
Of course, I want to see 62.
You can't root against him.
Yeah, like
Nobody can root against him.
Yeah,
How do you hate a guy?
just because I'm being pessimistic doesn't mean I don't want to see it happen. The issue is teams are walking him like crazy, so you have to deal with that factor. You have to factor that in. So again, love to see it. I'm not sure we get 62.
Well, I would love to see it. I think that I was talking to Luke about this a couple weeks ago, and I just think the fact that we could have the AL single season record and 700 in the same year, it's mind blowing. It's something that nobody would have predicted, and I don't believe that they would have, thought this was going to happen on the front end of the season. I know I didn't.
Judge did. There was a video of Judge hitting in the cage in January and said to his hitting coach at the time, he said, "I'm hitting 50 again this year." And
Oh, well, he
to hit 60.
blew that out of the water.
Yeah.
I think that baseball fans, however this goes, need to do what they can to appreciate this year, however long,
We will never see anything.
Yeah, this is not going to happen.
Yeah,
This is not going to happen.
This record that Judge is setting right now, I don't see that. If he breaks Maris, I don't see that ever.
No one's getting 70 for sure.
I want to say 70, but I think 65 is possible. Right circumstances, but great. I think it's possible.
If no one had walked Aaron Judge, he'd probably have 65 by now.
If the Orioles didn't push that stupid fence back, he'd have 70 by now. He had like 4 doubles off the top of the wall in like 1 game in the stupid left field wall. He actually had like 70. But they were tired of
The create a park wall, that's what they're
They
calling
were
it.
tired of Gleyber Torres hitting 17 homers.
Gleyber Torres is a minority owner of the Orioles by now.
Yeah.
Gotta be. There's got to be some level of ownership stake that he possesses in the
Let's
ball.
talk Gleyber Torres for a quick second. He is hot right now, and I love it. We needed when the Yankees were struggling. Judge was the only guy carrying them. No guys were hitting around him. Gleyber Torres, my AL Player of the Week. I'll sneak peek it later, but he has been raking for the past week. I'll get into his stats later, but I'm just saying I'm glad to see it, and it's at the right time.
And we've talked about this a lot. The Yankees getting hot with their lineup starting to take more form with guys coming back from injury, more guys, being more consistent other than Aaron Judge, like Luke said. The Yankees have been a real threat all year. They're going to continue to be. But now, if they're firing on all cylinders, it's going to be very hard for, to envision them not coming out of the American League with and finally getting past the LCS, getting past the Houston Astros, who cheated to eliminate them on 2 occasions, I believe. Two occasions.
Wait, hang on, you're talking about.
Buzzers.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not. So, I'm okay. Look.
No, dude, I'm sorry.
Hold on.
I gotta say it.
Let me explain my argument.
You send your team to the World Series on a walk-off home run, and you're not letting your teammates rip your jersey off because of an unfinished tattoo.
Okay, yeah,
BS.
Again, that was a terrible excuse. I just don't think he wanted to have his jersey ripped.
Why?
Okay,
And there's
let me
other
explain.
pictures. There's Hassan Reddick or whatever his name is.
Josh Reddick.
Josh Reddick. Josh Reddick, there's a video post game, a little buzzer,
And it was
attached to
literally
his-
just taped on his
like
chest.
taped to his like shoulder
Okay.
with a wire coming down.
If they had found the buzzer, I think the Astros would have been disintegrated by the MLB. But
That's
again,
extreme.
no, I seriously think they would have been like close to or something like that.
I don't know. I haven't read the MLB Constitution. If they even allow that
I think they can in the future. So I've been writing it
in a while, have you read it ever?
It's like a while.
Can you find it online? I'm not trying.
I'm talking about like are you talking about like the rule book or are you talking
No,
about,
like the literal MLB Constitution. Like, yes, I'm not trying to give you crap. I want to read it myself. So if you can find that online,
I basically like ran like a summary. It's like out there. It's like you know how it is. Like people talk there.
like the Astros got fined $5 million from the scandal. My phone just fell off the desk. From the scandal, and that's the maximum fine that you can get under the MLB Constitution.
It also gets overlooked with the Red Sox cheated too, by the way.
Yeah, with the Apple Watches. Yeah, the Red Sox. They set a bad precedent doing that. They really did. I mean, Dev and the Astros both.
No, I'll tell you why I think the Astros got off. I think they snitched. I seriously think they snitched.
Well, of course they did. That's why Rob Manfred had promised the players to get immunity in exchange for their cooperation.
Yeah, so that's why I think we didn't see that extreme punishment. I think the Astros got to keep the World Series because of all the snitching.
It was.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look again. It looks like the problem's been solved now, or at least to a
I will
point
hold
where
that
it's
grudge till
manageable,
the day I die.
which is pretty understandable. But at least that problem is taken care of.
Yeah, I don't think
Because of the
yeah.
Houston Astros, I have not been alive to comprehend a Yankees World Series. That is not fair. I was 5 years old when they won in 2009. They have 27. They should be winning. This is not fair to me. And they're getting 28 this year, though, so it's all good. But no, they should already have 28.
everybody knows. I think everybody knows the Yankees would have mopped the floor with the Nationals in 2019.
1,000% 4 games.
Would have probably been a 5-game series.
Yeah.
I mean, and you can't convince me they weren't cheating during the World Series. Robinson Chirinos, who I've seen play and in person, and I've watched play for 3 different teams, was going off in that World Series. That man had to know.
Wait, are you saying the Astros were cheating?
No, I'm saying they were cheating in the 2019 World Series. Robinson Chirinos was going off, and I'm like, that dude couldn't hit a beach ball.
Yeah, I mean, so
It's like
I'm not sold on the buzzers.
He literally is the reason the Orioles are not in a wild card spot right now. If you look at their splits for when he's behind the dish versus when Adley Rutschman is behind the dish, you can't convince me.
you also got to look at the proven year in 2017. Who was their catcher? What was his name?
Evan Gattis, former Atlanta Brave.
Everybody was saying, "Oh, what a crazy story! Guy goes from being homeless to being an MLB catcher," which was like a crazy story. Yeah, he wouldn't have made it. He would not have made it. He's cheating, knowing what's
He
done.
DH'd a lot that year, and Brian McCann was the
Yes,
catcher.
he was the main video that was proven on like John Boy's like.
Yeah, he was batting at that time when,
batting
against the
heard
White
bangs
Sox
on
with
the
Danny
field.
Farquhar pitching to him.
Again, I'm not saying the trash can was fake because we all heard the trash can. We had the audio basically amended, but I'm not sold on the buzzer. I'm not sold on the buzzer.
I don't even want to talk about the Houston Astros.
Okay. All right, let's talk about wild card.
Yeah.
So Milwaukee 1.5 games behind. We talked about the Phillies a little bit. Right now, they're basically the Phillies are down. I think that's a possible switch where we see Milwaukee in the playoffs. Who would have thought after what had happened with Milwaukee kind of going completely out, kind of with the Josh Hader trade, which that looks really smart now. but still, Milwaukee possible flip into the playoffs.
I could see that. I mean, I was kind of alluding to it at the top of the show. I could see the Phillies choking for no other reason than they're just so bad during this time of year. And I think the Brewers have enough in them to get it together. I mean, it's a very slim gap. That's why I kind of leave the door open here, and I feel like the Brewers may be able to make stuff happen. I don't know. I definitely don't think they're a good enough team to go yard in terms of postseason wise. I mean, they had the best shot, in my opinion, back in 2018 when they were able to win the division in Game 163 over Chicago, and then go on to the NLCS and get the #1 seed overall. in the National League when they still lost to the Dodgers. So after that, it seemed, and then 2019, of course, Yelich got hurt with his knee. They fell off a cliff, and then made it to the wild card game. Should have won. We all then know what happened. Juan Soto singles it into right field, and it goes under Trent Grisham's glove, and a bunch of beer goes flying around Nationals Park. That was one of the craziest scenes I think I've seen as a sports fan, not just as baseball. That was crazy. And then 2020, they made it as like the very last seed in the expanded postseason and got swept by the Dodgers in the wild card series. First game in that. And then last year, they obviously had won the division in the NL Central despite a Herculean surge from the Cardinals in August at one point, winning 17 games in a row, but still got beaten 4 games by the Atlanta Braves in the division series. So if the Brewers go to the playoffs, who's to even say that they're going to make noise? I don't believe so. I don't buy the Brewers. I think they could very easily make it. I think they could go further than the Phillies, but there's not a lot about them that inspires me.
Agree. Again, I think Milwaukee's a team that fans just get in and enjoy around and leave. So, yeah.
Baltimore.
That's a really tough.
They have very tough games ahead against the Yankees, and they need the Mariners to lose.
Here's why I think they got a shot. The Yankees clinched the division. They're playing a bunch of bench guys. Solano K is ugly. I mean, Judge is playing obviously because he's the Disney record, but they got a shot to beat up on the Yankees backups and stuff like that. I don't see the Yankees losing this series. They just the pitch to beat them. I don't see the Yankees and then possibly make a ground on their other series.
I'm here for it. I hope so. We're about to take our next break.
Well,
Before that,
what's the other thing?
okay.
Baltimore also has another ally in this. Seattle. It's Seattle. Yeah. It's the Mariners.
Need them to lose. But we're going to go to our next break. But before that, Luke is going to catch us up on live scores.
All right, so we got the Rays and Guardians are in a rain delay right now, still at 1-1. Yankees on top of the Blue Jays, still 3-0 on top of the 6th inning. Tigers on top of the Royals 2-1 in the middle of the 6th. Braves still losing to the Nationals 2-1 in the bottom of the 5th. Mets still trail the Marlins 2-0. Orioles trail the Red Sox 2-0 in the bottom of the 5th. White Sox down 3-2 to the Twins. Cubs losing 1-0 to the Phillies in the top of the 4th. And the Cardinals and Braves.
When we come back, we're going to do even more in-depth breakdowns of the wild card. We're going to do done, not done, and then we're going to close out the show with players of the week. Keep it here on 90.7 The Capsule.
WVUA-FM, Tuscaloosa.
Welcome back into the student section of UNLV here on 90.7. We are in the home stretch of this Wednesday night. We're going to close things out by starting this part with our wild card in-depth breakdowns. We did a couple of teams before last break, and we're going to now dive into these wild card races, where things stand, and who we think is going to be in the playoffs when all is said and done.
All right, so of course, right now we start with the AL. Toronto, 3.5 game lead. Tampa Bay, 1.5 game lead in second in the AL wild card. And then you have Seattle hanging out right now where they are. So again, like we talked about with Baltimore, they have a 3.5 game lead over them, but Seattle, they're being kind of weird. They've been a decent team this year.
What are they, L10?
Past 7, you mean?
Yeah.
3-7.
Okay, well, that's exactly where the Phillies are in the National League. We talked a little bit about that. We used that.
Yeah.
I expect the American League wild card to be what it is now with the 3 teams that are in it now. Baltimore has been losing a lot lately. They've lost to Houston, lost to Red Sox last night. When their best home run hitter right now, Anthony Santander, can hit multiple home runs and still lose. They're like 1-10 in games where he hits more than one home run. That's inexcusable. I mean, and of course, as I touched on last segment, if they never had to put Robinson Chirinos behind the backstop, they would probably already be in a wild card situation. But as things stand, 3.5 games back, but there's just not a lot of time left to make up.
We were talking in the break, Garrett Cole had a perfect game in the kicking, and the first batter of the bottom of the 6th inning, hitting home run.
Who was it?
Danny Jansen.
I'm going to do that.
408 people left on the perfect game, but you know what? It is what it is.
I kind of feel bad now because I was the teams I was going to say the word. I was going to say perfect, but
And everybody knows you don't say the words. It's just like in Luke, you'll learn this if you cover baseball. You go into the press room with Coach Bo, you don't say the numbers. You never say the numbers. Somebody had said, I can't remember who it was. Somebody had said like Tommy Seidel's batting like 385 right now. And Coach just goes, you said it. You said the numbers. Don't say the numbers. Baseball, very taboo. You don't say the words. You don't say perfect game. You don't say no hitter. You don't say the numbers. You just have to let it happen. And except when it doesn't happen, then you can say it after that.
Yeah.
So Garrett Cole's perfect game is blown. But back to the wild card race, National League. We've kind of beat the dead horse on the Brewers and the Phillies. But those are kind of the teams that are in it. Now let's talk about another team that seems to be entrenched in the wild card spot right now, the San Diego Padres.
Yeah, so they're 2.5 games above their lead right now with the Phillies. But again, the way things are, San Diego had kind of a reverse flip, 8-2 in their last 10, 3-game winning streak. So it looks like they're going to try their best to hold on to this thing. Maybe if they can get hot enough, maybe we see a bit of a playoff run after the team's kind of been dead most of the season. I think that's pretty fair to say. So, interesting look, 100%. But because the NL East is still not clinched yet for anybody, the Braves and the Mets, they also have both of them have a 13-game lead over the second wild card spot. So we know which of the two teams are going to get that first wild card spot.
Yeah, it's going to be the Braves and the Mets top wild card spot, but and of course that's deserved. But I would say this Juan Soto acquisition is not really paid dividends for San Diego. They're winning games right now. He's just not putting up the star-studded numbers that you might expect.
Oh, I mean, it's look, we're going to have to wait another year really to see if this pays off. But if it doesn't, I mean, 2024 is going to look real bad. I think there are teams that are going to try to go for him, but I don't think he's going to get the numbers that you have to wonder, should he have taken that Washington deal if it does not catch on at all.
Well, I mean, of course, you got to think about this, too. If he shows up in the postseason, none of this matters because he's been with the Padres since August. So if he winds up being a big contributor to the postseason, then this year with him has been a massive success for the Padres.
Yeah, but the issue is, ever since week one of him being a Padre, everyone said, all right, next week's going to be when he really pops off, and he doesn't pop off. So it's like, okay, how long is this going to take to get used to Petco Park?
Well, it's a big problem for San Diego because one of their big players did pop, but not popped off, popped literally. So they will not, we know they won't be having Fernando Tatis. He's out for this season. He's out for about 50 games next season. And so that's where you need a guy like Juan Soto to step up big time. You know, you really need him. He's now your keystone with Fernando gone. And Manny Machado, of course, is no slouch. And he's going to be a huge contributor. But, yeah, it's just, I don't know. I think that Juan's going to show up in the postseason in the wild card. That's really good. I don't know if the Padres will win the series. Time will tell. I think that'll depend a lot on who they play. They kind of had our number.
Well, I mean, okay, if they play the Phillies, do you think they beat the Phillies?
Out of the water.
What about the Brewers?
Yes.
I'm not so sure about the Brewers because, just to kind of give you an idea, Brewers have been .500, 2-game losing streak, sure. But you never know. There's always that one team that gets super hot, and I feel like the Brewers have that chance to make a deep run. I don't think they win the World Series, but they have a chance to get hot.
Well, I don't see them making it past, the division round. I don't think the Padres are well adjusted to playoff baseball yet. Even Bob Melvin, for as good a manager as he is not well adjusted to playoff baseball because the Athletics, for goodness sake, barely won the important games in the postseason. They had a 2 seed and got their butt handed to them by Houston in the COVID-shortened season and just looked horribly in doing so. I just think that they have too much to figure out in too short of an amount of time. I don't think they'll make it past the division series. And they're a talented team. Maybe they could shock some people, but I think that their time is coming next season to see what the best of this team is going to be.
Yeah, I mean, and Padres have a tough challenge up ahead. If one can't get it together, who knows? But it's an interesting postseason for the Padres, 100%.
Yeah, and let's get into a more team standpoint now that we've gone through the Padres, gone through Juan Soto. Let's have some done not done action, shall we? This is going to be the last. I think this may be the last meaningful done not done. So let's make it count, guys.
We could transfer into done not done. We could talk about teams that are still in the playoffs and then teams that are eliminated that they could have done.
That's a good thought. That's a good thought. Well, let's get down to the brass tacks first and foremost. Teams that are still in the hunt. Philadelphia first. Done or not done?
Done.
Out.
No
Oh.
explanation.
Okay, yeah, I'm in that camp too. I'm saying done. So we're gonna give the Brewers a nod over them. We're gonna say not done for the Brewers.
Yeah, I'm gonna say not done for not done.
Okay, well, that's I mean, that would certainly make Philly mad. Moving on to the American League side, got to talk about Baltimore. They're pretty much the closest. I mean, the Twins are one loss away from getting eliminated. They're not
I
good.
want to say not done. I really do. Even as a Yankee fan, I mean, you root for young teams like that to have cool stretches and stuff that you don't expect. I'm rooting for it, but I think they're done.
Make Buster only mad.
I'm going to say not done because Seattle is right now 2-game losing streak, 3-7 in the last 10. I think there's a good chance Baltimore can make the jump.
Well, let's break down some matchups. We know we've gone over Baltimore's schedule a little bit. Let's go over the Seattle Mariners schedule the rest of the way.
Let me get that
Yeah.
right now.
I got Baltimore there.
All right, what do we have, Luke?
Baltimore is currently losing 2-0 to the Red Sox, and then they have one more against the Red Sox tomorrow. Then they head to New York to play the Yankees for a 3-game series. Then they go back home to play the Blue Jays.
Yeah, Blue Jays have had Baltimore's number. That's such a tough slate. They've not looked good against the Red Sox. I mean, they have. Their pitching has just not been
7
working.
games left, 1 against the Red Sox, 3 against the Yankees, and 3 against the Yankees. It's a rush back.
Yeah, and if you know what, if they can, and they're 2 wins away from being a winning team.
I think the only way they do is if the Blue Jays clinch a playoff spot, and then they're playing against the Blue Jays from the start because
Which it could happen,
Yeah.
especially if
then,
Manoah's not.
because then they got 6. If that happens before that series starts, they got 6 straight games against batters. Because they'll be playing the Yankees, who have already clinched, and then they'll go on to play the Blue Jays.
Yeah, so Mariners are playing Texas actually tonight, tomorrow night. Then they play Oakland at home, and they also wrap up with the home series against Detroit. So
They got an easy schedule.
Yeah,
it
very
is
winnable.
easy,
I think.
but again, like I said, 3-7 in the last 10 games, and they haven't exactly been playing hard opponents.
It's a good stretch to turn it around because they're among the worst in the league.
Yeah,
Can you imagine if this drought extends for the Seattle Mariners? I mean, that would be just guttural for not only the
If that
organization
happens,
but also
That
the
would be
fans.
a colossal down.
if that
Scott
happens,
Service has to go at that point.
that's what I was gonna say.
100%.
I think they did right by him, giving him a chance after what we saw last season, and they have stuck with him. The players like him. I don't know what fan opinion on him is. Living in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, I have not known a large contingent of Mariners fans, but like I said, give them a chance, right thing to do. But if they miss the playoffs this season, you got to move in a new direction.
Oh, if they miss the playoffs, you got to have an over.
You got J-Rod on the on the cusp of getting. You already got basically a massive extension. He's your keystone piece. He's your your next Griffey Jr. kind of face of the franchise. You have a lot of other great young talent. You got Ty France, fantastic. Taylor Gilbert on the mound. Robbie Ray's got a decent sized contract, also veteran pitcher. You have the pieces in place that even if you're not good enough to make the playoffs, you're trying to make the playoffs, and you have to make sure that you have the best situation to do it. If they flop out of it this year, Service has to go. And yeah, tip of the cap. Thank you for revitalizing the team. Thank you for what you've done with the young talent. But yeah, and we have a new direction.
All right. That's the players of the week.
Yep, players of the week. All right, let's
So,
start things off.
I'm going AL player of the week. I said it earlier. I'm going Labor Torres. 417 over the last 7 days. He's 10 for 24, 5 runs scored, a double, 3 home runs, 11 RBIs. 11 RBIs in the last week, 5 walks, only 6 strikeouts. him playing well around Aaron Judge forces guys to pitch to Aaron Judge more, even though they're not. He's taking advantage of that. Aaron Judge walks. Gleyber Torres usually batting third behind Rizzo, batting second. So those guys getting on. Gleyber Torres knocking him in 11 RBIs. He's not AL player. NL, okay, you got to go Ronald Acuna. I mean, what he's doing with the Braves in this push to win the NL East, I mean, it's he might do it again this week.
Yeah, again, I got a little bit of flack from you guys about Ronald Acuna, and I will happily say that a good old-fashioned Carson Keel pick here there. I got to go with him again. He's getting hot. I think with the Mets series coming up, he has a chance to really put it into fifth gear. So I'm sticking with that.
What about the American League?
That's a good choice. I'm not going to say Judge because last time we all said that he didn't hit a home run. So I can't really think of someone like this.
I'm gonna say I didn't even say my AL one. I said NL for. I said Acuna. I think AL. I'm gonna go with a team that is going for that needs a guy to step up, and I'm gonna go with Mariners pitcher Logan Gilbert.
That sounds good.
I think he's gonna need to step up big time in his starts this week for them to win and push for the wild card.
For my players of the week, for my current ones, not my predictions. For the National League, I'm going with Albert Pujols. Hit 700 home runs. The recognition has to be there, and he's one of my favorite players. So it was an easy decision, especially because he hit 2 home runs in the game. He's been on an absolute tear since July. This is it for his career, and he has risen up to it. So that's really inspirational to see from one of the game's all-time greats. And then for the American League Player of the Week so far, I'm giving it to Anthony Santander for the Baltimore Orioles. He has like 3 multi-homer games in the past week and a half, which is insane. And if you want to have a playoff push, I do think the Baltimore Orioles are pretty much out of the running. But say for argument's sake, they're not. These are the type of performances that you need. If he can do that consistently, and I've started calling him Tony Taters. He's hit 30. He's now reached the 30 line of home runs for the season. So he is my American League Player of the Week. Now, shifting gears, prediction-wise, who do I think is going to be Player of the Week? National League Player of the Week, I think Kyle Wright is going to face down Jacob deGrom, and I think that he is going to add to his win total, maybe even potentially clinch the series with Freed on the bump on Friday night. I believe that Kyle Wright is going to be the National League Player of the Week next week. American League Player of the Week, that's a tough ask. I think I'm going to go with Julio Rodriguez from Mariners. I'm just going to predict that.
You need a guy to step up in that situation.
Yeah, and he can be such a spark for that team. If he is, in fact, able to live up to that prediction, he can be such a spark for that team to cement itself as a wild card team and to end this 21-year drought, to show why they gave him $470 million. Some might argue he's pretty much got to do it at this point. This is a statement time for him. One way or another, that's who I think is going to be the American League Player of the Week. We thank you for tuning in tonight on 90.7 FM, The Capstone, for another great week of Student Section MLB. Come right back next Wednesday from 7 to 8 p.m. I'm Will Miller. With Torre.
And Carson Keel.
Good night, Tuscaloosa.
WVUA FM, Tuscaloosa.